Hi, and welcome to Reddit Confessions. You won't believe what you're about to hear. And honestly, I still don't believe it either. There was a lipstick stain on the inside of our bedroom window. Not on a mirror. Not on a glass. The window. The first thing I did was stare at it, wondering if my mind was finally going. I mean, who presses their lips to cold glass? And then it hit me. She didn't. Someone else did. I stood there like an idiot, just breathing too loud. The window was open a crack, like someone forgot to shut it after sneaking in, or out. But the lock was still latched. Everything looked normal if you didn't know what to look for. And I knew. The strangest part? I wasn't even angry. I was embarrassed. Embarrassed that it had taken me this long to realize that something was very, very wrong with my marriage. It was like walking into your own surprise party, except instead of streamers and cake, you find shadows where love used to be. I wiped the stain with my shirt. It smeared. My hands were shaking. Later that night, she came home humming. Humming like she'd just watched a feel-good movie or got a free latte. She kissed my cheek, same lips, same gloss, and asked what I wanted for dinner. I couldn't speak. I just pointed to the window and asked, "Do you remember doing that?" She blinked at me like I was speaking Portuguese. Doing what? The window, I said. There was lipstick. She looked at it. Then at me. Then laughed. You're being paranoid again. Again. Like it was some cute little personality quirk of mine, like snoring or forgetting to water the plants. Then she said something I'll never forget. Something so casual, so deliberate, that it tore right through me. If I wanted to hurt you, Curtis, I wouldn't waste time with windows. She smiled. Turned on the TV. And just like that, I realized, she already had. And she wasn't done. But neither was I. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was afraid she'd sneak out again. I wasn't even angry. I was unraveling. You know that awful moment when a puzzle you never meant to solve starts falling into place? Piece by piece, I started seeing everything with horrifying clarity. Like how she suddenly got very opinionated about locking the bedroom door at night, even when it was just the two of us. Or how she used to leave her work badge on the kitchen table, but now she kept it zipped away in her purse like it contained state secrets. Or how she used to talk about everyone at work, from the receptionist to the janitor, but lately, just the team. Always vague. Always plural. Until Saturday. It was supposed to be another regular day. She was getting ready for some charity 5K her company sponsored. She came out in leggings and a tight black hoodie I hadn't seen before. She looked polished. Almost too polished for someone running in 80-degree heat. She asked if I could take a picture of her for Instagram. I did. She barely looked at it before saying, "Mark's bringing his camera anyway." That name hit me like a cold slap across the face. I don't know why. I'd never heard her mention a Mark before. Not once. And Lena is a chronic name-dropper. She'll tell you who microwaved fish in the break room like it's front-page news. But Mark? Nothing. He came out of nowhere. I asked, "Who's Mark?" She paused a beat too long. Just 1 second. Just enough to make my gut twist. Oh, he's new. Some intern/photographer guy. Super annoying. She said it with a smirk that didn't match her tone. Then she picked up her water bottle and practically floated out the door. As soon as she left, I did something I'm not proud of. I went to her side of the closet. I never do that. But I had to know if I was going insane or if something was really wrong. That's when I saw them, a pair of men's shoes tucked behind her yoga mat. Not big enough to be mine. Brand new. Still had a faint tag mark on the sole. They were definitely not there last week. I stared at them for so long, my knees started to hurt. I took a photo. Put them back exactly as they were. That afternoon, she came back all bubbly and flushed. Talking about how Mark had no idea how to use a drone and how Sheila tripped over a cone, and how they grabbed smoothies afterward just to cool off. I nodded through it all, sipping my coffee, saying, every few minutes while my mind screamed. But here's the worst part, she was so relaxed. Like nothing was wrong. Like everything was normal. As if I hadn't spent the whole morning panicking and checking the closet every 10 minutes like a madman. That night, when she was in the shower, I checked her purse. I expected to feel shame, guilt. I felt none. I was looking for her work badge, just to prove I wasn't imagining things. Instead, I found a hotel receipt tucked between 2 granola bar wrappers. Dated 3 days ago. One night. King Suite. Downtown Marriott. The name on the receipt. Mark D. Holloway. Room charged to his card. 2 guests checked in. I didn't drop the purse. I didn't gasp. I just stood there, heart flatlining, staring at evidence that wasn't even trying to hide anymore. She came out of the bathroom in a towel, humming some song I didn't recognize. She looked at me. I looked at her. And for the first time in our entire marriage, I smiled, but not because I meant it. She was trying to break me. But she didn't expect what I was about to do next. I didn't confront her. I didn't scream, accuse, or cry. I didn't even bring up the receipt. That's what she expected. She was probably waiting for it, even rehearsing her lines. It was nothing. You're overreacting. We had to book the room for the after-party, everyone was there. But I didn't give her that. Instead, I gave her silence. The kind of silence that makes people lean in, not out. And Lena? She hates silence. She feeds on reactions, mine, strangers, anyone's. If she says something mildly cruel and you flinch, she gets that little glint in her eye. But when you give her nothing, that rattles her. For the next 3 days, I was calm. Too calm. I made dinner. I folded her laundry. I even rubbed her shoulders while she watched some Netflix reality junk about people falling in love in isolation pods. And every time I touched her, she stiffened like she wasn't sure if she deserved it, or if I knew. That told me everything. I needed proof. Not to show her. Not even to use. Just for me. Because if I was going to act, it had to be rooted in absolute clarity. And then, like a curse that decided it was done hiding, the truth started dripping out in the smallest, cruelest ways. It started with a smell. She came home Wednesday evening in one of her sleek gray blazers, the one she wears when she's trying to impress upper management. Her hair was pulled into that high, tight ponytail she reserves for big meetings. I offered to take her bag, and as she handed it to me, I caught it, cologne. But not mine. Not anything I've ever worn. I don't wear scents. I get migraines. She knows that. So when I smelled it on her, lingering like a ghost on her scarf, I froze. That was the moment something in me flipped. Not exploded. Just shifted. Like a gear snapping quietly into place. That night, she fell asleep with her phone under her pillow again. I waited 2 hours. The TV on low, pretending to be half asleep myself. Then I reached slowly, gently sliding the pillow just enough to pull the phone free. No passcode. She once told me, what kind of person locks their phone in a marriage? Apparently, someone with a short memory. I didn't go through her texts. I didn't even check her camera roll. I went to the rideshare app. One thing about Lena. She doesn't like to drive if she's had even half a glass of wine. She'll Uber home from a friend's house 3 blocks away if it means avoiding a DUI. So I checked her trip history. The last 5 rides, All to the same location, Harper and Slate Lofts. A luxury apartment building on the other side of the city. That's not a work event. That's a rendezvous. I clicked on the driver reviews. She tipped generously every time. Quick trips. Late night drop-offs. One pickup as late as 2:48 a.m. And the most recent ride? Booked 2 nights ago. She hadn't even been out that night, supposedly. She said she was going to bed early. She kissed me on the forehead and asked if I'd wake her up early so she could stretch before work. I remember watching her pull the blanket over herself, eyes closed, mouth slightly open, and then I went to bed. I never heard her leave. But now I knew she did. The next morning, I packed a bag, not to leave. Not yet. Just in case. I took my passport. My laptop. My backup hard drive with every photo we'd ever taken, just because I couldn't stand the thought of her keeping them. And then, for the first time in 12 years, I called in sick. She left for work like everything was normal. But she took extra time on her hair. Checked her reflection twice before walking out. Wore heels I hadn't seen in 6 months. I waited 20 minutes. Then I called the same rideshare company. And I asked them to take me to Harper and Slate Lofts. No destination typed. I said it out loud. The driver looked at me in the mirror and said, "You too, huh?" I didn't ask what he meant. But I should have. Because what I found there would rip everything I thought I knew to shreds. I don't know what I expected to find when I got out of that car. Maybe nothing. Maybe her sitting alone, scrolling on her phone in some minimalist apartment with cold marble countertops and that hollow silence that rich buildings seem to echo. Maybe I'd see her walking out with some guy who looked like me 10 years ago, before the gray hairs, before the back pain, before the quiet way I started apologizing for existing. But not this. The building was eerie. Not because it was dark or dirty. It was the opposite, too perfect. The kind of place where the air smells like cucumber water and every hallway feels like it's been polished 5 minutes ago. There was no front desk, just a digital keypad, and the elevator required a code I didn't have. But the lobby had a wall of mailboxes, and one of them had a name taped over the label, M. Holloway. Mark. I finally had a full name to hate. I stood there too long. The security camera blinked at me. I nearly turned around. I was going to leave. I was ready to take the shame and shove it deep down again, just like I had with every bad thing I'd ever swallowed in silence. But then the elevator dinged, and someone walked out. A woman. Mid-30s. Designer gym bag. Distracted. She pushed the door open, and I slipped in behind her before it could close. She didn't even notice. I was in. The building directory confirmed it, Unit 5C. I took the stairs. Every step up felt like I was climbing into a trap I'd set for myself. My throat went dry. My palms were sweaty. And when I reached the 5th floor, I saw the unit right away. 5th door down, lights on inside. I could hear faint music, something mellow and jazzy, almost theatrical. I knocked once. Then again, lighter. No answer. But the door. It creaked open under my hand like it had been waiting for me. And inside, wasn't what I expected. No Lena. No Mark. Not yet. What I found instead was a scene frozen in time. A half-eaten fruit bowl on the kitchen counter. 2 glasses of white wine, one nearly empty, the other untouched. A phone charger plugged in with no phone attached. A scarf draped over the back of the couch. Her scarf. The one I gave her for our anniversary 2 years ago. I stood there, surrounded by their life in progress, feeling like a ghost watching my own death. I didn't touch anything. I just walked further in. There was a bedroom to the right, the door cracked just a few inches. The music was louder now, playing from a speaker on the nightstand. I pushed the door. What I saw first wasn't a person, it was a camera. A high-end DSLR set up on a tripod, pointed directly at the bed. Sheets messy. A second camera on a gimbal beside it. Lighting gear in the corner. An open laptop showing thumbnails of I don't even know what. I couldn't look. Then voices. From behind the bathroom door. Laughter. Her laugh. That awful, flirty version of it that I hadn't heard in years, not directed at me, anyway. Then a man's voice. Confident. Smug. Like someone who knew he was the main character in every room he entered. I panicked. I didn't run, not yet. I backed out slowly, breath caught somewhere between a scream and a whisper. The hallway suddenly felt like a mile. My vision blurred. But before I could get to the door, I saw something that made my knees almost give out, my old t-shirt. From college. Faded. Soft. She'd always said it was her favorite. It was tossed casually over a dining chair like it belonged there. I left. Fast. No slamming doors, no dramatic gasps. I just slipped out, past the lobby, down the street, into the blur of city noise that couldn't drown out the roar in my head. When I got home, she was already there. Hair damp from a shower. Wearing pajamas. Pretending she'd just been reading in bed. She asked if I had picked up milk like I said I would. I nodded. Set the bag down. Watched her pretend. And then she kissed my cheek, same spot as always, and whispered, "You're so quiet lately. Everything okay?" That was the moment I knew. She didn't just betray me. She thought I'd never do a thing about it. But I would. Quietly. Carefully. And when the time was right, completely. That night, I lay beside her listening to her breath. Even in sleep, Lena was smug. She slept like someone who had won something. Not like someone hiding. Not like someone guilty. No, she slept like a queen beside her quiet servant. And for years, that's what I'd been, loyal, tired, always hoping the kindness would eventually be returned. But something had shifted. I no longer wanted her to love me. I wanted her to see me. And to wonder what I might be thinking. She rolled over in her sleep and placed her hand on my chest. I didn't move. I let her feel my heartbeat, fast, uneven. Maybe part of her knew something had changed, or maybe she just wanted to own the space she thought would always belong to her. The next morning, I didn't cook breakfast. I didn't ask about her dreams. I didn't remind her to take her vitamins or compliment her lipstick. I just said, "You'll be late," and went back to drinking my coffee. She stared at me for a moment longer than necessary. It began then, the quiet war. I didn't scream. I didn't accuse. I didn't even remove the cameras I just ordered online, 2 hidden ones that looked like air purifiers. She wouldn't notice them. She never paid attention to things that didn't serve her reflection. By noon, they were up. One in the living room, one in the hallway facing the front door. I wasn't trying to catch her anymore. I was studying her. That day, I did something else I hadn't done in years. I visited my old friend Tanner. We used to work together years ago in sales, and he was one of the few people who had ever told me, bluntly, "Curtis, she treats you like wallpaper." I didn't listen to him back then. But now. I needed to. He looked surprised when I showed up. "Man, you okay? You look like someone just told you your dog ran off with your wife." I actually laughed. Then I told him the truth. Not the sanitized version. The actual, brutal details. The cameras. The hotel receipt. The loft. The fake dinners. The scarf. He sat in silence, jaw locked. "You want to leave?" he finally asked. I shook my head. "Not yet. Then what do you want? I answered without thinking. I want her to understand who she married. Not who I pretended to be, but who I really am when I stopped trying to be easy to love. That night, I came home and found her in the kitchen reheating soup. She said, "Didn't think you'd be late. Everything okay?" I nodded. Ran into an old friend. We got to talking. She smiled too tightly. "You never mention plans." "You don't either," I said. And then, just for a second, her entire posture shifted. The tiniest flinch in her neck. The barest pause in stirring. It was working. I knew her routines down to the minute. I knew her lies were carefully timed and spaced. And I knew if I just kept being slightly unpredictable, she'd start unraveling, not because I exposed her, but because I stopped playing the part she expected me to. Over the next few days, I started changing things. I stayed up later than usual. I moved the laundry from the basket she preferred. I removed her favorite throw blanket from the couch and replaced it with one she hated. I started locking the bathroom door. She asked once, "Are we okay?" I looked at her and smiled. Why wouldn't we be? The more I acted normal with just enough off, the more off balance she became. One night, I heard her on the phone in the bedroom. Her voice was hushed, urgent. "I don't know. He's acting weird." No, not suspicious, just not like himself. "It's creepy. It's like he's watching me." She was right. Because I was. But not just her. I was watching myself. Watching the man I had become, crawling out of the grave I'd been lying in for over a decade. And I had a new plan now. Not for revenge. For revelation. Something was coming. And Lena had no idea it had already begun. The thing about someone like Lena is that she thrives on control, not just over herself, but over how others perceive her. And when that perception starts slipping, even a fraction, it's like watching someone drown in shallow water. They flail even harder because they think the surface should be right there, but it's just out of reach. The first real crack came on a Tuesday. I was supposed to be at work until 5:30. Instead, I left early and parked 2 streets over. I walked back to our house around 3:45, just to see. Just to confirm. The lights were off. But her car was in the driveway. That wasn't the plan she told me the night before. She had a strategy call at 4 o'clock and wouldn't be home until after 6. I didn't knock. I didn't sneak in. I waited. Quietly. Like a question she hadn't prepared for. At 4:27, the front door opened. She stepped out with her phone pressed to her ear, smiling. Not like a woman in a stressful Zoom meeting. No laptop bag, no notes. Just her in leggings and that same black hoodie she always wore when she wanted to look effortlessly pretty. She didn't see me until she got to the sidewalk. Her eyes locked onto mine like she'd just seen a ghost. I tilted my head. "Back early?" She blinked. "Wah, oh, yeah. The call got rescheduled last minute. I was just taking a quick walk." "With no shoes?" I asked, eyes flicking to her socks. She looked down like she didn't know her own body. "I didn't even notice." "That's so silly of me." I smiled and opened the door for her. She didn't say another word for the rest of the evening. But I saw her checking my phone while I was in the shower. She didn't know I'd started locking certain apps. Not because I had something to hide, because I wanted her to wonder if I did. That night, she cooked for the first time in weeks. Chicken piccata. One of my favorites. Too much lemon, like always. I ate it. And I thanked her. I even told her it was better than I remembered. And that was when she really started spiraling. She stayed up late that night, pacing the living room while pretending to scroll through her tablet. She kept peeking toward the hallway camera without realizing it was a camera. She thought it was an air purifier. I let her. The next day, she cleaned the entire house. Top to bottom. Like she was trying to reset something. Erased the scent of whatever truth had started seeping in. She even replaced our bed sheets with brand new ones, sheets I didn't recognize. Sheets she must have bought recently. It was subtle, but it was desperate. Then she did something unexpected. She invited me to lunch. Not a text. A handwritten note on the kitchen counter that said, "Thought maybe we could have lunch today. My treat. I miss you." The handwriting was neat, deliberate. Not her usual hurried scrawl. It was a performance, and I knew it. But I went anyway. She took me to a place downtown she said she'd just discovered. The waiter knew her name. He asked if she wanted her usual. She froze. Smiled too wide. "Oh, I guess I've been here more than I thought." I nodded. "Yeah, it happens." She kept asking me questions that weren't really questions. "You've been good lately, haven't you? You've been sleeping okay? You haven't been stressed, right?" It felt like a job interview disguised as a date. I answered everything with calm, polite lies. Great. Restful. No stress at all. I watched her mentally tally every word, trying to solve a problem without the formula. When we got back home, she leaned in for a kiss. I gave it to her. I even held her face for a second too long, like I was memorizing it. Because in a way, I was. That night, I backed up every video file from the cameras to a flash drive. Labeled it something generic, vacation edits. I dropped it in the drawer next to my passport. I didn't need more proof. I needed timing. And it was getting close. She had no idea that every soft word, every long stare, every bite of chicken and awkward smile was only tightening the thread I was slowly pulling. And soon, one stitch was going to come undone, and the rest would follow. I didn't need an explosion. I needed a ripple. Something small, subtle, that would travel so quietly through her perfect little world that by the time it hit her, it would already be too late. It came on a Saturday. There was a company picnic she told me about a week before. Just for staff, she said. Plus ones make things awkward. I smiled and nodded like I understood. I didn't tell her that I already knew where it would be. I didn't tell her that Tanner's cousin, Ellie, worked at the same company. Ellie, who had confirmed there was no such thing as a staff-only rule. Spouses were not only welcome, they were encouraged. So I bought a ticket. A cheap one. The kind where you eat from food trucks and sit in the grass pretending to like cornhole. I didn't wear a disguise. I didn't sneak through shadows. I walked right up to the park, casual as a breeze, and watched her from a distance. And there she was. My wife. Standing beside a tall man in a maroon button-up shirt, laughing like she'd never had a care in the world. He handed her a soda. She took it with a smile I hadn't seen in years, not the polite smile she reserved for me, but the real one. The one that reached her eyes. The one she used to give me when we danced in the kitchen to no music at all. Mark. I didn't need someone to tell me. I knew the moment I saw the way she leaned into him slightly when he talked, how she touched his arm when she laughed, how her body mirrored his without her even realizing it. It was chemistry in public daylight. The kind you don't share with a coworker. She didn't see me. But someone else did. Ellie. She walked past me with a knowing look. No words. Just the briefest glance and a nod. She knew what I was doing there. And more importantly, she respected it. I wasn't going to cause a scene. I was just collecting the last piece of the puzzle. I stayed long enough to watch them sit at a picnic table, alone, even though there were dozens of people around. He brushed something from her hair. She didn't flinch. She didn't pull away. She let him. It wasn't a kiss. But it was worse somehow. It was normal. Routine. Familiar. Like they'd done this before. Many times. I left. No drama. No evidence. Just memory. And that was enough. When I got home, I didn't go to the kitchen. I didn't pace the living room or hide in the bedroom. I went to the basement, somewhere she never went, and pulled out the box with our wedding album in it. I flipped through the pages slowly, not with nostalgia, but with focus. She looked so different back then. Or maybe I just looked different at her. I pulled out one photo, us dancing, her face pressed to my chest, her eyes closed like she trusted me with everything. I folded it neatly, placed it in an envelope, and slid it inside the drawer with the flash drive and passport. Then I printed out the rideshare history. The hotel receipt. A still from the loft hallway, with her walking out adjusting her bra strap and smiling at the camera. I didn't do it for court. I didn't even do it for revenge. I did it for the final moment. The one moment I was planning in silence, waiting for the right pressure point. A move she'd never see coming, not from me. Not from the man she thought she broke into pieces. When she came home that night, she kissed my forehead and said, "You'll never believe how boring that picnic was." I looked at her, heart calm. "You're probably right," I said. And I meant it. Because the boring part was almost over. I didn't need to hurt her. I needed to free myself from believing I ever had to beg for the bare minimum. That I had to shrink, fold, or beg just to earn the same love I gave without question. The moment came on a Wednesday. Plain, silent, gray outside. Lena was in the shower, humming along to a song I didn't recognize. I sat at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee and the box I'd been slowly building, quietly, intentionally, piece by piece. It wasn't rage I felt. It wasn't even sadness. It was stillness. When she came out in her robe, towel wrapped around her hair, she saw the box immediately. "What's this?" she asked, eyes narrowing. Not in curiosity. In fear. I pushed it toward her. "You said once, if you wanted to hurt me, you wouldn't waste time with windows." She froze. "I just thought," I continued, voice calm, "you might want to see the parts of me you've been walking past. All this time." She didn't open it right away. Her hands hovered over the flaps like they were wired to explode. But eventually, she looked. Inside were the stills from the loft cameras. The rideshare logs. The hotel receipt. The scarf. The folded wedding photo. And on top of it all, a small handwritten note that simply read, "I know. I always knew. I just stopped needing you to admit it." She didn't speak. Her mouth opened once, then closed again. I stood, walked to the door, and pulled my small overnight bag from the hall closet. She asked where I was going. "Somewhere that doesn't require me to pretend anymore," I said. "Somewhere that isn't just waiting to be lied to." She followed me to the door. "You're just leaving?" "No. I already left. Weeks ago." I looked at her one last time, really looked. Not the version I'd built in my head. Not the echo of the woman from our wedding photos. Just her, as she was now, flawed, frightened, and for the first time in years, silent. I stepped outside. The air felt lighter than it had in a long time. I didn't have a plan. I didn't have a new apartment or a rebound or a list of next steps. All I had was the truth, and for once, that was enough. Weeks passed. She texted a few times. Apologies. Defensiveness. Offers to talk. I didn't respond. Then one day, a letter arrived. A real one. In her handwriting. Inside was nothing but the wedding photo. No message. No return address. Just the image of a man and a woman dancing like nothing could ever touch them. I smiled. Then I slid the photo into a journal I'd started writing in and placed it back in the drawer, not to forget, but to remember how far I'd come. And that's how it ended, not with revenge, but with relief. Not by tearing her world down, but by quietly stepping out of it. If you made it this far, thank you. You're watching Reddit Confessions, and I'd love to know, have you ever had a moment in your life when staying silent was the strongest thing you could do? Drop your story or thoughts in the comments below, I read every single one. And if this one moved you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with someone who needs to hear it. Until next time.